What's up, Naval? Thanks for coming.
Which mic are we using?
We're going to use this, and this is for a camera. The other one's for a camera.
Oh, I see. Okay, good.
So Naval was actually here. I don't know. I didn't tell you this, but you actually did this a number of years ago when the event was much smaller. And I was looking at the attendee list of the last event that you came and spoke at, last Intern Palooza you came and spoke at, and Dylan Field was interning at Flipboard at the time.
Wow, that long ago.
That long ago. And so I appreciate you spending time again with all of us today.
Will the next Dylan Field please stand up?
Oh, there was two.
Yeah, there's two. Okay, good.
We got two. But I have a number of questions I want to ask you today. And I'll kick it off with that you have kind of famously said, earn with your mind and not your time. And so if you were an intern in the audience today, and you were 21 with no money but a lot of time and an internet connection, how would you spend your time?
Yeah, when I say earn with your mind, not with your time, I don't necessarily mean that like you don't have to work hard. You have to work as hard as you possibly can. But there's only a limited number of hours in the week. What is it, 168 or something like that? So it's not the fact that you can win by out-earning somebody else. Can you do it by being more clever, more intelligent? Yes, but you also have to know how to direct your time and your mind, because life is full of compounding. Like every little decision you make adds up to bigger and bigger decisions. And so you got to get the big decisions right, and then you have to know how to allocate your time well. You made the biggest decision correctly, which is you're in the tech industry, you're in the Bay Area. So that's a cheat code. That's a couple of cheat codes right there. You're at the forefront of the smartest people in the world. You're working alongside the smartest people in the world. You're in the largest concentration of high IQ motivated people. So the next set of decisions is, well, now that you're in the right place and you're in the right industry, what do you choose to work on? And specifically, who do you choose to work with? So those are probably the next most important set of decisions. And they're going to be along the lines of, what do you have a natural inclination for? What's like a sufficiently deep topic or field? In the Peter Thiel sense, where do you have a secret or some kind of a competitive advantage or an interest-based moat or specific knowledge that only you have? And then are you working with the absolute best people possible? And I would argue in that latter axis, you probably aren't. The single biggest shortcoming people have early on is that they stay extremely limited in the group that they're next to. They tend to start companies with, they tend to work with, they tend to hang out with, they tend to learn from the people who they just kind of happen to be next to. And it doesn't work like that. Life is a search function, and you fulfill the first part of that search function by landing here, but the next part of that curation continues. So always keep kind of curating who you're working with. And it can be on a variety of different topics. And this is my problem with advice. I hate giving advice, and you've probably been hammered with advice all day long, like people giving you a whole bunch of advice. It's like people telling you they're winning lottery ticket numbers, right? It's like it's not really actionable on your part. But I do think there are a few overarching core principles. Like if you talk to older people who are successful, they will pretty consistently tell you that the number one most important thing was like who they worked with. And right up there with that is that they made sure they enjoyed what they were doing. Not because the journey is a reward or any of those cliches, but for a different cliche, which is that if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to be good. So these principles are easy to talk about. They're very hard to follow in practice, because in practice they involve rejecting people and making very difficult choices and walking away from good situations to head towards great situations.
When did you start doing that? When you were 21, what was the Naval like?
Yeah, there was no plan. I don't listen to anyone's advice. There was no top-down reasoning. There's all ex post facto, reasoning. The reality is it's just in your nature. What's in your nature? It was always in my nature to make decisions for myself, to be a rebel. I would say my bar for who I work with was not high enough, and that's obvious to me in hindsight. I would say that my bar for what I worked on, did I enjoy it, was not high enough, and that's only obvious in hindsight. Like for example, the first couple of companies that I got involved with as a founder, both starting and being involved, at that point, I really just wanted to be a founder, right? And that was like, that stamp was more important. And so that desire kind of overrode everything. And then later, so it was more like, oh, I really want to be a founder. I want to found a company. Who can I found a company with? Where can I found a company? So it was sort of not a pure motivation. And then later, my motivation was much more around, simple things like money and power. Like nobody wants to talk about it, but those are fundamental drivers. Like, yeah, I want to make money, and I want a company that has an influence. And even that wasn't that pure of a motivation, wasn't that great of a motivation. And now looking back in my career, where I was most successful was when I did projects either because I was genuinely curious about them, where I was trying to figure things out because I was like, oh, this is really interesting. What's behind this? Oh, that's really cool. What's behind this? What's behind this? And then just following my own intellectual curiosity gave me insight and then led to good investments and good startups and good outcomes. And then I would say now I'm in the lucky position where I don't have to do things for money or status or any of those normal motivations. So now I can concentrate on just what product do I want to see exist? What's like a beautiful thing that I can make that wouldn't exist if I didn't put effort into it? And what people do I want to spend all my time around? And how do I make sure that there is a combined effort, a team that I can work with all day to spend time with them? Because the truth is when your material desires are somewhat met, you end up extremely bored. There's nothing to do, okay? It's like when you don't have to hustle for a living, you're just like, well, what do I do? You've lost your purpose in life. And you could, go meditate in a corner for a long time. That gets boring too. You can go completely hedonistic, and that's a death trap. People blow themselves up or blow out on drugs or just empty lifestyles. Or you kind of realize, like, actually, what I want to do is I want to self-actualize. I want to be the best version of myself. And what does the best version of myself mean? That means creating something. It's better to create than to consume. It's far more fulfilling, and you learn along the way, and you build. And then what do I want to create? Well, I want to create something beautiful that I'm passionate about, that I want to use, that other people won't do well or won't do right or won't do in my time frame. And then how do I want to do it? Well, I want to do it with friends, people that I really respect, really admire, that I enjoy spending time with. And then you can kind of craft that perfect team. And I wish I'd kind of had that kind of motivation and insight, 20, 30 years ago. I'm not sure I could have, though. Sometimes you just have to follow the path and see how it plays out.
Are there people that you met when you were 20 or 21 or 22 that you still work with today?
Yeah, one funny thing is when I first got into the industry, there were a lot of people around that I met, but there were a few that I just gravitated towards because they were so intelligent and so interesting and so talented. And I remember at the time thinking, man, what an unfair world that these super talented, interesting, engaged people are getting all the fame or the credit. And the reality is now I look back 20, 30 years later, and those people, they're all incredibly successful. They're all reasonably famous, and they've all gone on to do great things, with almost no exception. So if you find somebody who's genuinely talented, intellectually curious, hardworking, high integrity, mark my words, I guarantee you that 20 years from now, those people will be successful. And I wish I just invested in or stayed close to every single one of them. I can't think of a single exception.
Yeah. What else? So everyone here is kind of doing, or most people here are doing an internship right now. They have come from all over, the United States. They're here for the very first time. And so when you came here for the very first time, what were some of the things that you did that you'd recommend people do here?
Yeah, it's a magical place. I mean, I think the Bay Area is a huge cheat code to a level that I can't even talk about on Twitter because it would just piss people off who can't get in here. It's really good here. Now, obviously, the quality of life might be better in some other places, or the cost of living might be better in some other places, but your earning power here is unparalleled. The weather is pretty darn good. There's a lot of, you're living in the future. You can take a Waymo, you can be able to take a robotaxi, you can see all the drones, you can see all the cool stuff being built out and developed. But the single biggest thing is you're here with the smartest people in the world. It's the highest IQ density of anywhere in the planet. And I would argue that through human history, there have been a few magical places at a few magical times. So maybe it was Athens during the Greek Renaissance. Perhaps it was Rome during, when the Roman Empire was up there. Maybe it was Manchester or Birmingham or London during the Industrial Revolution. Maybe Paris during a certain period of time. But there are these magical places where the best people in the world, even people who are not necessarily in the industry, even like artists or business people, whoever, they're attracted to that place. So I would argue that, by being here, you are in the right place. So when you're here, you do want to meet people, but you kind of want to, I don't believe in empty networking. You know, like I don't believe in like networking for networking's sake, where you're just like mingling and shaking hands and wearing a name tag, no offense, and you know, like offering to meet up with people. You have to be a little discriminating. What you're really looking for is like-minded people who you deeply respect. I would say earned respect is what you're looking for. You're looking to earn other people's respect, and you're looking for people who earn your respect. And they will earn your respect through their talent, their curiosity, their good nature, their low ego, their high drive, and sort of their vision, right? And so, and it's different for everybody. It's not like there's one person in the crowd we're hunting. That's the, you know, that's the Dylan from Figma problem, right? Like trying to find like the one person who's going to be successful. You can't do that. That's impossible. Rather, it's just who in here is like-minded, someone that you can learn from, someone that you enjoy interacting with, is good-natured and open-minded, and you just want to stay in touch with. So definitely you do your basic networking, but your networking is really just to find those people you connect with. And the best way to match, I think, honestly, is through work. It is not through shaking hands or through talking. It's through working. So that's where hackathons are pretty good. That's where small projects are really good. You know, it's like any group project you're in, whether in school or whether in your business or company, you'll find there's usually like one person in the group that's carrying all the load, right? And there's a lot of people talking, a lot of people slacking, and like, hopefully you're that person. But if you're not, or if you're like number 2 or number 3, and be honest with yourself, you know, find the person who's number 1, who is carrying the load, and make yourself as useful. Trust me, it'll pay off. It just takes a long time.
How is Naval spending professional time and days these days?
I got a new startup company. It's called the Impossible Computer Company. I've got an unbelievable team that quality I've never seen matched. They're all artists and engineers.
How did you find them?
They kind of found me. I would say that, well, I mean, some of them I've collected over the years. There's one guy I work with since the day I met him 20 years ago. We have never, like, not worked together. So we stayed together. There's another guy I met at my last company about 4 years ago, and he was just so good that we just stuck it out together. But really, it's a team that had assembled around a related project, and then we kind of merged. But I think the way that team mostly got together was through shared mutual respect. My co-founder is incredibly, has incredibly good technical taste. So what he'll do is he'll find products or research or insights or papers or code that he really admires. And it's usually really weird stuff. It's not mainstream stuff. He's kind of a collector of idiosyncratically cool products and technologies. And he'll find this person somewhere on the internet who's created something marvelous, and he'll deeply understand it because he falls in love with it, and then he reaches out to them, and he sort of will compliment them, he'll offer to help them, he'll ask them good questions, he'll contribute to the code, he'll contribute to the learning, and he's kind of been doing this his entire life. It's sort of his nature. And so he's ended up just surrounded by some of the most brilliant, artistic, driven people that I've ever met, who are also, they don't think of themselves as, oh, I'm an engineer, or I'm a coder, or I'm an industrial designer, or I'm an electrical engineer, or I'm an AI person. They don't think of themselves that way. They're just like, these are creators, people who want to create things, and then they'll just pick up whatever skill is needed to create those things. And in this age of AI, that's easier than ever. I mean, these AIs are incredible learning engines for autodidacts. They can meet you at your level, you can interrogate them, you can learn whatever you want. And so I think these people just don't pigeonhole themselves, and they can kind of dive into anything and learn anything and build anything.
What are you talking publicly about the company? Are y'all in person, not in person?
Yeah, that's about it. Small team, there's less than 20 of us. Everybody works really hard.
In person?
In person, mostly. There's a few people who are remote, but they're trusted and known for a long time.
SF or Palo Alto?
SF, yeah. Like being in the city. My rule on this is I don't ask other people to do anything that I myself wouldn't do. So I like the office to be in a location where I like to go to. I like the offices themselves inside to be like nice, private, high-quality offices. I like to pay people well and treat them well and give them a lot of stock and high salaries and good compensation. And I expect them to always 24/7 be either working or thinking about work because that's the same bar I hold myself to.
Yeah. Was this always the case, or as the companies have gone on?
I think as time has gone on, you know, one of the advantages of being older is you just get to be more idiosyncratic. You get to do things more your way. So I think I'd always wanted to do it that way, but I just didn't have the confidence in the past. So as an example, you know, there's this, most companies, they have cubicles or desks, and you'll see people crammed into small spaces, and I think that's inhuman. Like when I go home, I enjoy my home office a lot more because I have my private space. So now I want everyone in the company to have an equivalently nice private space because I think it's more human. But it's easy to fall in the trap of hustle culture and, you know, everyone on the desk and sort of grinding, but I think a lot of that is just pretend work. So that's an example of something that I kind of rose past.
And so you just mentioned too, you didn't have the confidence to do certain things maybe when you were younger. Today, what are some of the unpopular decisions you're making as a CEO?
Yeah, I fire people much, much faster, hire people much, more slowly, resist hiring. I pay people better. I give them more stock. Basically, my rule on this, like, you know, pay twice as much, but expect 10 times the output. And I don't mean that in terms of hours, I mean that in terms of like actual output, because we're in creative domains. So in a creative domain, the right decision is infinitely more important than the wrong decision, or infinitely more valuable. And the same way that someone who's properly leveraged is incredibly high output. You know, Keith Rabois has this thing where he talks about barrels versus bullets. Like, everyone better be a barrel. There's no room for bullets in a small company.
Talk to us more about that analogy for those that don't know it.
Yeah, the barrel bullet analogy, I think this is Keith's analogy, so I'm going to mangle it. But it's, bullets are like you fire, you aim the barrel and you fire the bullet. So you're kind of directing those people. And barrels are the ones providing the direction and deciding when to pull the trigger. So it's more the guidance. And in a big company, you always have that. You have management and then you have execution. And because most of you are interns, you're always going to be slotted into the bullet role. But we don't have that concept. So we have one guy that we hired who's 19. And he's a peer. He's everybody an equal. Nobody tells him what to do. He works for himself. He's paid just as much. He's going to be compensated just as well. And we're going to expect the same level of output out of him. Everyone's a bullet. There are no barrels. And it's very easy to fall into this trap of, well, because they're younger, you know, they're automatically a bullet. That's not the case. My co-founder is actually 23. He started working when he was 15. He is absolutely a peer. He and I have the same level of stock with the same level of authority.
Do people push back to Naval, or do you get in arguments, or people you feel like you have to deal with that?
You know, what's funny is we haven't had a real argument ever in the company. I'm trying to think.
Is that good or bad?
Well, it's early, so honeymoon. Maybe there'll be real arguments down the line. But I think usually you know whose domain something is in, especially when it comes to technical stuff. When you're building, it's very clear, like the person who's doing the job actually has the best insight. So yes, you can offer ideas, you can debate, but when you're building, the real way you debate something is like, okay, well, if you're saying you can't do that, well, I'm going to go do that, right? That's how Elon Musk does it, right? He's like, okay, if you're not going to get this shipped within 3 weeks, I'm going to sleep underneath my desk, I'm taking over your job, I'm going to get it shipped within 3 weeks. So those kinds of debates can be resolved through execution. There are often debates you find in, you know, marketing or biz dev or kind of these fuzzy things. Luckily, we don't have that because I'm the only one doing that, so there's nobody else. We are actually debating like what the product name is going to be, for example, and there is a little bit of a debate forming there. And I can already tell, like, that's the kind of thing where if you have too many marketing droids in a company, you're just going to go in circles on that. But I think the way we'll just settle that is we'll probably just pick the 3 people in the company who have the best taste. And we know who those are. You can tell by the way they dress and the way they behave and what their house looks like, right? And those 3 will basically vote on it.
And so you've worked on multiple startups. How do you know when to, you know, what you're doing is you should stop or you should keep going before you have any kind of traction?
Yeah, I think people run out of energy and, you know, they'll start feeling burned out. And burnout to me is a clear case that, like, you're not enjoying this anymore. And if you're not enjoying this anymore, you should probably stop working on it. So I don't believe in this temporary model of burnout where people are like, oh, I'm burned out, but if I take 2 months off or just, you know, ramp down a little bit, then I'll come back and it'll be better than ever. No, it doesn't work that way. Generally, I've seen people who are working around the clock, but because they really enjoy what they're doing and the company's doing well or the product is going somewhere or there's clear, meaningful progress being made, either in product development or in deployment, they don't burn out. Whereas you'll see some good people have left, it's not clear where things are going to go. That's when people start, quote unquote, burning out. But I don't think burnout is a temporary phenomenon. I think it's a deeper indication that probably you should be working on something else or just really like move to the next thing, which might require a break but it's not that you're burned out and you'll come back on this thing.
Do you think there's sort of, people often recount Elon kind of starting with something easy and then graduating to something harder to work on? Do you think that's a fair line of thought in 2025, or should that be rethought as people think about the various things they want to do with their lives?
Yeah, so Elon did Zip2, and then he did X, which was PayPal, and which was his bank, and then he did SpaceX and Tesla and Solar City. I have definitely noticed a tendency amongst founders that they do deep tech startups later. So Kyle Voigt did this with Cruise later, and now his robot company, and I think before he was it Gusto or something? It was one of those fintech kind of companies, or it was Twitch or something.
Yeah.
And you see kind of similar track record with other entrepreneurs. Sam Altman did Looped, and then he did OpenAI. I'm now working in hardware. But I actually started my career in hardware. My first company was building linear optical amplifiers. So back in the day, it was even more deep tech. But I think some of that is the times, right? Because AI is making software dev so easy, and SaaS and software in general feels quite saturated. Some of that is inspiration when you're watching companies like SpaceX and OpenAI and Tesla, and you see what an impact Apple has had and so on. Then I think people feel inspired. Some of it is because of supply chains. It's easier to do hardware companies than it has been in the past because you can build up these supply chains. So I think you should go to whatever you're most inspired by. The nice thing about deep tech is you get to learn a lot. The learning curve is insane. You have less competition. You're probably doing something that is more meaningful or more impactful, possibly. Depends on the details, of course. The downside is it's way harder. Your odds of success are much lower. There are many cases of otherwise successful looking products. These are products you use every day or that you aspire to build, that you think these are great companies with great products, but the founders didn't make any money. The investors didn't make any money because they got wiped out along the way. It took too much money. Or they build what looks like a great product and it's good for all of 1 or 2 years, and then it gets cloned in China or Korea. And then there's a zillion clones of an Alibaba and there's no ability to monetize. So it is actually quite a bit harder. And the team you have to assemble, it's more difficult. But actually, I would say if you were going to start in deep tech, it's better to start early. Because when you're early, your failures are more forgivable, especially like, pre-25, like there's a lot less pressure. Your learning curve is going to be tremendous, and you'll start meeting people who are doing hardware. And those are great contacts for later on.
Got it.
Much better moat in this age of AI.
Interesting. What else do you think are the bigger moats today?
I think design is always a moat. Good design. Good design requires good taste, requires a good eye. AI can generate anything you want, but that means the world is going to be full of average. And then eventually people will get tired of average, so they'll say, I want extreme. So then AI will fill the world full of extreme, right? There's going to be every possible permutation of everything imaginable will be out there. Think of it like, I don't know if you've read Borges's The Library of Babel, great story by the way. But it's like every permutation of every book is in this library, including the refutation of every book, the translation of every book, the opposite meaning of the book, etc. So at some point you realize that the core task becomes editing, it becomes selection, it becomes curation. So developing your judgment, your taste is really important. And so that means having a good eye for products, not getting caught up emotionally disliking something just because somebody else did it. And just trying to always learn, always having that intellectual curiosity to figure out what makes something great. And then if you're hardworking, you can take that taste and you can literally translate it into creating something great. Like I never thought of myself as a builder or creator, or even as a writer. Like on Twitter, I got good writing these short, pithy things, but I never started out as a writer. I actually remember when I was young, I tried to write a book. Like we were forced to write a book for some English class, and I might have been like the only person in the class who didn't finish the assignment. I couldn't write the book. So I was
Twitter wasn't around.
Sorry?
Twitter wasn't around.
Twitter wasn't around. So I wasn't a particularly good writer. And then I liked reading. I liked to read a lot. So I read a lot, and I like poetry. I read a lot of poetry, but I couldn't write poetry. I never figured out metric rhythm or verse or bothered to learn iambic pentameter or any of that stuff. But then when Twitter came along, I was like, okay, well, we're limited. It was 140 characters. So you have to pick every word carefully like it's poetry. And so that turned out to be useful. I developed taste without realizing it just by having had a passion when I was young for reading that stuff. It was something you could never predict. you can never connect those dots looking forward.
Yeah.
But I think developing your genuine taste is actually a useful thing.
How do you know if you have good taste early on, or if you should develop, all right, I'm a shitty designer, or I'm a great designer?
No, that's actually a really good question. It's very hard. Like, for example, everybody says, I want to work with people better than me. And I'm like, well, why would they want to work with you, right? It's like if everybody has that mindset, then they don't want to work with you. So you do have to bring something unique to the table. You do have to be really good at something. But I think almost everybody is good at something, right? Usually it's an intersection of 2 or 3 things, what Scott Adams calls a skill stack, where you're combining a few things that don't seem like they make sense from afar, but they do. And you'll find that out in action. You'll go out there, you'll build things, and people will say, wow, that's really great. I don't, no, not just falsely complimenting you, but that thing that you just did, I find that really hard to do. So if there's something that you can do and it doesn't feel like work to you, it feels like play to you, but it looks like work to others and other people are impressed by the output, then I would argue that that's somewhere along the lines of your natural talent, and you should lead into that. I don't think in this age of specialization it's worth covering your weaknesses. The way you cover your weaknesses is by allying with other people who are very strong in those areas. And what you should do is you should double down on your strengths.
If you were to, you mentioned a little bit earlier about extremes. Talk to us about how you think the future will deal with the extremes and what the extremes might look like.
Well, I mean, I've been saying this for a while, but the leverage in the system is just insane, right?
Tell us more. What do you mean by that?
Leverage is just a force multiplier for your work. And historically, the forms of leverage, the oldest form of leverage was labor. You have people working with you or for you. Then it was capital. You're investing money or throwing money behind the problem. Then it's media. You're writing a book and people are listening to you and your words are moving many people to do things. Then it was things like videos and podcasts and other kinds of media. Then code came along. Code is this incredible permissionless form of leverage where you have robots and data centers cranking away for you. And now the leverage is increasing through AI, through agents, through robots, through supply chains, through 3D printing, through all the different things that you can do that can just amplify your work. So the leverage in the system has just gone insane. And people talk about how there'll be one-person billion-dollar companies. There actually already have been. That's been true for over a decade. Notch, the guy who coded up Minecraft and sold it for $2 billion to Microsoft, that was a one-man show. Satoshi Nakamoto, Bitcoin, that was probably a one-person show. So I think the leverage is already there for an individual to do a billion-dollar company or for 20 people to do an amazing hardware company. So the leverage will just continue to increase, which means nonlinear returns. And society just is not built to handle that. You can see all of the outcry against the rich getting richer, billionaires and all that. But it's not that the rich are getting richer, it's that the smart and leveraged are getting richer. So if you are smart and you're highly leveraged and everyone in this audience is smart or you wouldn't even be here and you're capable of being highly leveraged, your earning power and your earning is downstream of knowledge and creativity. So I would say your knowledge creation power and your ability to then leverage that knowledge creation is so much higher than even like your peers that you may have left behind in high school or college, that they just have no idea what's coming. It's going to be kind of a crazy time.
The last kind of topic I want to speak about is a little bit about education. Everyone here has, maybe a year or 2 left of traditional kind of college education. How do you think they should be spending that time?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all answer. I'll just say for myself, looking back in college, what was useful was when I did really, really hard things, because it gave me confidence to do hard things in the future. So I remember my computer science classes, like I wrote a compiler, which was up until that point like the hardest thing I'd ever done. And that was great. It really gave me confidence that like, okay, there's no computer science problem out there that like other people can do that I can't do. I wish I'd stuck with physics more, because then I would have had that same feeling about advanced physics and math, whereas right now I do feel like I run into some things when I'm reading physics or math where I'm like, I don't understand this, and then I got to spend a whole afternoon with ChatGPT breaking it down. I feel like a moron at the end. I wish I'd kind of broken those barriers when I was younger. It would have given me the confidence and given me the scaffolding. Wherever I learned about systems was really useful, so computer networking, computer architecture, semiconductors, all that stuff was really useful, even though I was doing software programming when I got out, because just understanding the layers of abstraction underneath were useful. So this whole idea that you don't need to study software engineering is nonsense. In fact, I would say, go even lower level, study chips, study physics, study whatever you can to understand how computers work, because that's the greatest form of leverage in modern society. And the people who understand AI, understand software really well, are getting paid more than ever. Mark Zuckerberg's huge pay packages notwithstanding, just the average salary for high quality software engineers, junior or senior in the Bay Area, continues to go up. And electrical engineers and industrial engineers and all of those. So that's kind of in the studying domain. In terms of people, I didn't invest enough into it. I didn't make enough connections with smart people when I was in school. I was very, I was a nerd. I guess today you call me an incel, but I was definitely extremely introverted. And even to the extent that I connected with people who were really smart, I didn't make an effort to stay in touch with them. It's fine. I mean, I don't regret it. But at the same time, I think there's probably some version of the world where I'd met my co-founder while I was there, who was like an incredible coder or incredible builder. But I just wasn't thinking that way at that time. That was a long time ago. Should you finish school or not? Probably, especially if you're getting a worthwhile degree. If you're getting a degree in some social science, then I would question that. I'm not sure how useful that would be. But if you're getting a degree where what you're doing with that degree will be tested by either nature or free markets, if it's going to get feedback from a source of reality, then that's probably worthwhile. On the other hand, if you're getting a degree in something where your main feedback is from other people, like people grading you or giving you awards, then I would argue it's a bullshit degree and you should probably switch away from it or just forget about it. It's a waste of your time.
Raise your hand if you're studying engineering.
If you're not, you should consider switching. It's about the classes, it's about learning. So I think anything where you're really bending your mind and you're learning how reality works, and your work will be tested by having to build something that works in the real world, or by compile something that a computer will actually execute, or by selling something that people in the market will buy. Those are real skills. But if you're writing elaborate papers with lots of citations, and then your professors are checking the box and saying, oh my God, this is like the best paper on this, and it gets studied in a journal, and you're going to win an award, that's bullshit. That's not real. So that if you're getting your accolades from other people or from reviewers or graders, it's nonsense. You're not really learning anything. But you might be having a good time in school. Might be a good party.
Well, I think that's a great way to conclude. Thank you, Naval, for spending time with everyone.
Thanks for having me.